Over under on the number of times that I forget Giganta is in this deck. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. Today we're going to be playing with Michael's Winota Joiner of Forces decklist. And I want to take just a minute to talk about Winota before we launch into the actual decklist itself. Winota is a very scary card, and in formats younger than Legacy, this card has been a menace. If you do something like play out 2 or even 3 creatures that can trigger Winota, and then on turn 4 you slam a Winota, you could be looking at a very large amount of card advantage very, very quickly. And there was a time in competitive CEDH, where Winota was one of the top tier strategies in the format before the format adapted to Winota and ultimately pushed it out. Winota, within the context of Legacy, has specifically been used alongside initiative creatures. And I ran really hot with Winota a year or two back when this idea kind of first emerged within the Legacy context. The idea of turning Goblin Rabblemaster and Legion Warboss tokens into initiative creatures with Winota is super fucking cool. Just being straightforward, like, it's really awesome. And while in, a standard or modern format or whatever, you don't have Ancient Tombs and a ton of fast mana to power Winota out early. Whereas in Legacy, turn 1, Goblin Rabblemaster, make a friend. Turn 2, you get another one. You have 3 creatures that can immediately trigger a Winota on turn 2. And that could potentially put in multiple copies of initiative creatures like Seasoned Dungeoneer and Caves of Chaos Adventurer. Initiative creatures all but fell off the face of the earth while Grief was legal and heavily played within the Legacy format, as Grief, take your creature, reanimate it on turn 1, was just putting initiative players too far behind. And today we're going to do Winota with a little bit of new tech. There's 2 pieces of tech here. Number 1 is Vexing Bauble. This is a card that I've been advocating very, very strongly for since Modern Horizons 3. I think in many cases, this is going to replace Chalice of the Void in its appropriate decks. Now, there's some tension here. You do have 0 drops of your own, but if you're using this to protect cards that are this powerful, that's probably better than Chalice of the Void on average. The other piece of tech is Eomer, King of Rohan. 2/2 double striker. It enters with a +1/+1 counter on it for each other human you control, and when it enters, target player, probably you, becomes the monarch, and Eomer deals damage equal to its power to any target. So off a Winota trigger, this can come in, give you the marker, be a giant double striking creature that is attacking and also removing a creature. This is a little slow to hard cast, but we are expecting to cast 4 drops in the deck, so it's not like a 5 drop is a total stretch of the imagination. The sideboard here, I think, is reasonable, but I don't think it respects Psychic Frog enough, and I'm probably going to be saying that until December. Psychic Frog is just such a huge central pillar of the format right now that not having a bunch of Pyroblasts or Swords to Plowshares here to answer this card seems a little bit sketchy to me. But generally speaking, I like the tools that are in the sideboard. We have removal for small creatures, we have mana denial for things like Eldrazi, we have a little bit of artifact hate, and some assorted combo hate. I don't know if we're ever going to use this throughout the entire league. We are more threat heavy than some of the Red Prison style deck lists. It's not like we are just going to draw a pile of Chalice of the Voids and Trinispheres and actual factual Blood Moons here. We're much more aggressive than that. I don't think this is necessary here, but we'll see if it ends up being good. You need your copies of Eomer, King of Rohan, or anything else, please consider checking out my sponsor, Tales of Adventure, toamagic.com. Promo code ThrabenU saves you 5% on your order, and you always get free shipping. That reminds me, I need to get some cards before Vegas. I gotta place my own order. Anyway, let's battle. With a single mana source here, this is just clearly not going to do it. With 2 mana, this hand can cast 0 of its cards. Unfortunately, we are going to have to mulligan down to 5 here. Oh no. So we see the basic planes alongside City of Traders. So we have 3 mana, but the singleton basic planes that is in there to be fetched off of the Caves of Chaos Adventurer triggers has bitten us in the butt. We can keep a 5-card hand and try to spike a red source. I would rather have a functional 4-card hand, though. Yes. 1, 2. My opponent has already said, oh no. Yeah, I know. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is probably about the best we can do. I am going to briefly... My opponent says, just cut the footage and run. I'm going to briefly consider keeping Vexing Bauble, but I think I just need to throw it back. Like, it is conceptually good to try to play my one thing around a Daze-style card. I'm not sure that I can get away with that. This is not what I want to do with my first mana source, I don't think. If I get Wastelanded, I would prefer that Plateau gets Wastelanded. We're going to play that, pass the turn, and then shove Caves of Chaos Adventurer. We are hoping that my opponent is a slow blue deck. Okay, cool. Slow blue deck. Maybe not confirmed, but likely. And maybe we can get a little bit of time to draw out of this and not just be facing down something like a Psychic Frog immediately. I don't hate that. I am going to play Caves of Chaos Adventurer, though. The upside of this resolving and getting initiative upticking is very, very high. After seeing Meticulous Archive, I'm not thinking about Daze. I am thinking about Force of Will and Swords to Plowshares. Nice. So since I have white mana already, I'm going to pick up a basic mountain now. I've already made my land drop. I'm passing the turn. The Nightmare scenario is something like end of turn Snapcaster Mage into remove my creature, where my opponent just takes the initiative. Or if my opponent is Jeskai colors, if they do something like Fourth Aerlingas and simultaneously become the Monarch and have initiative, that's real bad for me. So, is the Nightmare scenario of Fourth Aerlingas happening? No. It looks like my opponent might just be base blue-white. Narset's not all that bad. Getting Ponder. Okay. So we're not forging here. We're going to go to Lost Well, try to select our draws. We're looking to get rid of mana. Goblin Soldier, Goblin Pirate. Yeah, I think I'm in for these. Top and top. I think this is going on Goblin to make 2 different things uncounterable. I think I'm into Cavern. What's Eomer's other creature type? Noble. Yeah, that doesn't help me here. All right, so I will name Goblin to get the 2 in. Oop. I think I am into Broadside, hasty attack on Narset so that my opponent does not get another card out of that. If I just attack it with a single Goblin token, I don't really accomplish what I want to accomplish. We've got 4th land drop, so things like Supreme Verdict are on the table now. And my opponent is just passing with mana available. That's fine. We're going to stash here, get a skeleton next turn. And I don't think we are interested with this immediately. I would like to get rid of Narset first before I become the Monarch for very obvious reasons. So we will just go ahead, uncounterable critter. We're going to make a friend. We're going to go to Punchies. I think I'm going to send both of these at Narset. That is certainly over-assigning damage. But I want that thing gone, and I don't want to have to awkwardly throw a creature. So I think I am okay leaving a little bit of damage on the table. I don't need this treasure token, though. So I think I'm going to just throw this treasure token at my opponent's face for a little bit of damage, and hopefully not get punished by something like a Back to Basics. The Wandering Emperor. Sure. Ooh, not opting to destroy my Broadside, which I thought might happen. Opponent instead going for trying to stabilize the board in that capacity. I'll take that 3. Now my opponent becomes the Monarch, which is bad. Or sorry, takes the initiative, excuse me. And then we're hoping to not see something like a Supreme Verdict here. Or it could be the energy one, I guess. Yeah, it is Wrath of the Skies. Not great for us. Ooh, that, on the other hand, is pretty cool. Also, did you remember that we are playing a mulligan to 4? Because we are. And we have recovered, and we are playing a real-ish game here. Alright. So target player becomes the monarch. Choose any target. We'll choose Wandering Emperor. Unfortunately, we don't have bonus human friends right now, but this really decreases the oomph that the Wandering Emperor has. Come on, card, be good. Nice. Now, my threats are going to be uncounterable. My opponent can turn their Planeswalker into a 2/2. Connecting for initiative is pretty huge. Killing this Planeswalker is also pretty huge. I wouldn't mind just drawing another vital card here. My opponent chose to play that island prior to the Ponder. I'm not sure if I like that. Does not leave them with the opportunity to take one card and then shuffle away the rest. That's a Swords, though. Ooh. God, that's so good. Alright, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. I don't get to do both. I'm about to go into Catacombs. So yeah. That's uncounterable, Caves of Chaos Adventurer. That means that I get my initiative back. Go to Catacombs, make the second body. I am still the pretty princess as well, so I get a card at end of turn here. Okay. So, if my opponent is not playing 4th Aerlingas, and we don't know for sure that they're not yet, but if they are not playing 4th Aerlingas, I'm okay. Mystic Sanctuary is really fucking scary. That represents either a Lorien Revealed, which is a draw 3, or a Wrath of the Skies to wipe my board, assuming that my opponent can draw immediately. What is that? Is that the energy one? Yeah. So draw a card, gain 2 energy. While that does not sound like a legacy playable card, when you are rocking Wrath of the Skies, the ability to jump ahead on curve and play your Wrath of the Skies sooner really matters. So there's Wrath of the Skies again, paying a little bit extra X to get some bonus energy to wipe my field, but I still am the pretty princess, and I still have initiative. So, Throne of the Dead 3. Ooh. That is a thick Winota. Yeah. So, 1 and 2, uncounterable Legion Warboss. Is everything in this deck either a human or goblin? Goblin, human, yes. Except Simian Spirit Guide. I guess we'll put this on Spirit. Uncounterably. Take the initiative. Pull a basic land from the deck. For variety, we'll grab the basic plains this time. I've already made my land drop. We're going to go to combat. Yeah. Declare attackers. Send this at the Wandering Emperor or the Winota trigger. Ooh. That's weird. If I put this Winota in, it is attacking, which means that I can always kill the Wandering Emperor immediately. Despite the fact that I love these +1/+1 counters, I will be choosing this. I am attacking the Wandering Emperor. I am keeping this Winota. So my opponent takes the obvious block. I'll take my extra card draw. And life's tough for my opponent. They've gotten some very good card Oh, there is red. All right, opponent is sending in with their creature, swordsing my creature. I believe that I just take the block here. Like, it makes my Winota much worse, but I think I can just assume that these things end up going well enough for me on average. This is a really tough choice. Scrying into a goblin that can trigger Winota is incredibly strong. While I want to forge and just win the game quickly, I think Lost Well is actually correct. From Mox, that goes on bottom. This is probably an above average draw. You are a warrior? You are a warrior. Put you on top. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Uncounterable. 4. Take the initiative. Go to stash, which is unexciting. Make my treasure. Go to combat. Send in with Winota. Do this whole thing. Vexing Bauble. Yeah, I'll put that into my graveyard. Opponent takes 5, going to 10. I'll pass the turn. I don't need to play Lotus Petal. Draw a card. That's a mountain. 1, a mole, 2, 4. Yes! Okay, so as far as sideboarding goes, I don't know that we need to. Most of the stuff that's in the main deck is really good. I don't like Magus. I don't think I like Surgical. Fury can hit Planeswalkers. I guess that's relevant. Hitting the Planeswalkers matters. Is my opponent about to sideboard out their counter magic after seeing both Vexing Bauble and presumably a playset of Cavern of Souls? Maybe. If the answer is yes, Vexing Bauble is a lot less good. So I can just become more threat dense. Ooh, that costs me Jeggy over there. How do I feel about that? I don't know that I like that. I don't know if I like that. I think I'm going to keep Gigantha. My opponent is playing a very Wrath of the Skies-centric deck. Having this extra reach, I think, is very relevant. Oh, that's a weird hand. There's more fast mana than I would like, and it's not quite perfect. But I am on the draw. I am going to get an extra card here. I'm going to assume that on average, his hand improves. Can I just jam Rohan on turn 1? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. No. I can do it on turn 2 uncounterably. Yeah. Ancient Tomb pass turn. Becoming the Monarch or taking the initiative very early on is incredibly potent. My opponent is opting for a basic island here, operating under the assumption that they might need to be playing around Blood Moon effects, which I have not boarded in. They're getting Tundra for their white mana, and we're chilling. Cool. Now I don't have to necessarily put Winota under Chrome Mox. We are going to cast both of these Lotus Petals prior to showing Cavern of Souls. I don't want my opponent to have the information that, like, this is live. Human? Uncounterable friend. Alright. I become the Monarch. You can take 2 damage. 2 damage? Yeah. Cool. So we haven't seen Snapcaster Mage style effects yet, and hopefully my opponent does not have them. Oh, it is a Galvanic Discharge, really taking advantage of the energy stuff here. Galvanic Discharge probably better than Lightning Bolt right now, because Psychic Frog does not get killed by a Lightning Bolt. Later on in a game, Galvanic Discharge is something that could reasonably happen. We are jamming initiative creatures all day here. This first one will get me the basic plains, and then I will get the the basic mountain off of this trigger. Got a stifle effect? Yes, you have a stifle effect. Assigned to memory. Quite good. But I am still the pretty princess. So my opponent is using all of these 1-for-1 effects, but I am just repeatedly drawing cards. I am ignoring most of the counterspell side of their deck. I have a Winota looming for if I get a Goblin, and I might be able to Goblin plus Winota in the same turn cycle even. We're mostly just still afraid of 4th Aerlingas, although Narset is annoying. My Monarch side of the deck has been heavily nerfed here. So, second verse, same as the first. This time my opponent's tapped out, no stifle effect to be found. We'll grab a basic mountain, we'll play a basic mountain, but unfortunately, Narset putting a damper on my fun. Narset can do some digging for another 1-for-1 removal spell to take out Seasoned Dungeoneer. There's another Galvanic Discharge. Yep. Note that my opponent has 1 energy from before, so the 4 toughness creature is not going to live through Galvanic Discharge, whereas if these were just 2 lightning bolts, the second would not have killed this Seasoned Dungeoneer. Galvanic Discharge is a much stronger card than it looks like when you first read it. Land drop under, presumably to shuffle here, and my opponent's going to pass the turn. So if I want to force them to Galvanic Discharge something, I can forge this. But I think the scrying is so good here that I'm going to go ahead and go that route. No, and I think no. This on Goblin is cool, but only if I also have Goblins. So we'll put that on the bottom. Well, we found one anyway. Combat. My opponent at this stage is going to Galvanic Discharge this so that I don't get my on-attack trigger. And I think I will go ahead and just play out a Winota here. I'm not getting my, like, super Winota value by doing this. I think it's still fine. I'm definitely missing these extra Monarch draws, though. Like, there's a decent chance that my opponent slams something like a Triumph of St. Catherine that I can't deal with, and they start pulling ahead. Now, once I get to Catacombs, I'll feel good, but this next turn of just going to Stash doesn't feel great. I haven't gotten to just go down the left side this game and just be the aggro deck that I want to be. And so the game going later and later and later is, like, certainly scary for me. New land drop. No white yet, notably. So a Supreme Verdict style card is not viable. Or mana? Single white. Okay, so we're doing some trades here. So I take out one of these. My opponent gets some triggers here. They have played their land for the turn, though. So I can take out the Narset if I want. It's just awkward, because if I attack Narset, then I am not actually taking back both the initiative and Monarch. That's a rough time to draw a land. Oh, this is bad, folks. Like, any Goblin producer there that just lets me attack Narset while taking both of these is probably GG, but we missed that. I don't think I get to leave my opponent with both of these. That token getting forged up while untapped is very bad for me. I think I'm going to hit face here. Don't feel good about it. We'll be going to Stash. Again, Stash is not great for us. Catacombs is. The Monarch's not great for us because of the Narset. I'll drop a Plateau and pass. We're running on fumes. I'm afraid of my opponent getting white. Yeah. Now my opponent has Initiative and Monarch. They are going for the Scry 2 this time. Ooh, yeah, if I dedicated resources to Narset, that would have been bad. Opponent picks up a Brainstorm. All things considered, that, like, certainly could be worse. That is uncounterable. So I can always take back the initiative, and then I just decide whether or not I'm leaving my opponent with the Monarch. I think the extra card and digging that this Narset represents is pretty bad for me. I'm going to try to send in on Narset. My opponent's got 6 cards, though. I don't really expect this to work. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. Caves of Chaos Adventurer. I take the initiative back. I go to Catacombs. That gives me an extra body. Does not give me an extra body. I think at this stage of the game, this is now going to hand. I forgot about it earlier. Increase your counter by 1. We'll name Elk. Oof. Yeah, I could have had an uncounterable Gigantha earlier in this game. Or wait, no, was the second Cavern of Souls recent? No, I think I've been holding it. Yeah, I could have had some slightly better lines this game. Or the Airlingas. Concede. So seeing how that game played out, seeing how good Narset is, I think I like the Furies. I think I am also in to playing 1 Magus of the Moon. White is more relevant for my opponent than I was thinking it would be. And my opponent ended up with like a Tundra and a Volk. It is possible that I can knock my opponent off of like blue or white if I end up just flipping a Magus of the Moon. Wow, that hand's awkward. This is an exceptionally good 5-card hand. I think I'm going to keep it. It's awkward. Like, this is not what I want a keep to look like, but I don't know that I throw back these 4 cards in conjunction like this. If my opponent's hand is not removal dense, like if they don't immediately remove a Goblin Rabblemaster, I get a ton, just an absolute ton of value from these Goblin Rabblemasters. They're going to hit like a truck. They are potentially going to outpace a Wrath of the Skies. Ooh, no turn 1 play. Sure. That is very bad. We're just going to go regular old land drop. Take 2 more damage, like so. That is a Brainstorm in response. So we should keep in mind that like a Terminus or a Triumph of St. Catherine could be a couple cards down. We're going to go to Punchies. Yield. Ooh, my opponent gave me 1 more Goblin than I should have. Just a priority pass error. That should have been done in my main phase. We end up with an extra goblin. Send in for 3. I do not believe I have a, Elegant Parlor in this deck list. So I do not believe that I have a Surveil land available to me. Sure. What did that Ponder do? Ponder shuffled. There's white mana. That's very good for my opponent. That can stem a lot of the bleeding. I can't exactly fetch to thin yet. Yuck. Combat. Sure. Send him in. This is a lot of damage. My opponent goes to 6. I believe that it is correct to hold Simian Spirit Guide as to not just walk everything into a Supreme Verdict or a Wrath of the Skies. Like, Simian Spirit Guide's a 3-turn clock at this stage. So I'm just going to pass the turn. And single target removal spell on Goblin Rabblemaster is no longer enough. There's white, so this is going to be a Wrath of the Skies. And this is where that Tune the Narrative is good, right? Because normally my opponent would not have enough energy to just go and cast this and actually destroy my Goblin Rabblемasters. But because of the Tune the Narrative, they jumped the curve on that and could. I think since I'm very likely to cast Simian Spirit Guide in this next turn cycle, I am going to go ahead and fetch out a basic mountain here. This is counterable. My opponent intentionally left up 1 mana. I think I am probably about to get stifled. Let's see. I am. Then we will, and I think play a secondary card. I think putting 2 creatures on the board so single target removal spells are worse is relevant right now. It leans me a little further into getting punished by a Supreme Verdict here. 5th land drop. An opponent wants it. Mystic Sanctuary for Wrath of the Skies. Rough. 5 mana Lorien revealed. Oh, it is just another Wrath of the Skies. So my opponent is, just has another on top of their deck that they are about to use. Thanks, I hate it. However, cast Chromox. No. Red mana. Or Goblin Friend. Uncounterable Goblin Friend. Attack for 2, fling for 2, and that should do it. We have gotten the curse words in chat. That should do it. Opponent says, GG's, I messed up this game. I messed up some stuff too. I forgot about Gigantha in game 2. Broadside was a fantastic top deck for me. Opponent could have tightened up a little bit, had a few more points of life, and then just had it. Oh god, my top couple of cards were really good though. Regardless, GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, and honestly, they're just the best at what they do. If you need to keep your deck lists online, this is the way to do it. They have all sorts of different viewing options. You can condense that text if you like things to be tight. You can make them visual grids. You can put them in stacks. You've got all sorts of different ways to kind of view and visualize your deck lists, and they also have some really cool functionality, like allowing you to see playtest hands and even fully playtest your decks. So check them out. So my hand's a keep. Ooh. Opponent has revealed Chancellor. That's fucking bad. That probably means a Turbo Reanimator deck. If I don't get to this second main phase Hipster? Second main phase Hipster. Dark Ritual. Necrodominance instead. Sure. Alright, let's see if my opponent loses to their own deck. My opponent will pay 19 here. And we'll see if they can combo off. 3 Spirit Guides. Summoner's Pact. That'll be a 4th Spirit Guide. Another Summoner's Pact. 5th Spirit Guide. 6th Spirit Guide. So there's that mana added to the pool. Manamorphose will produce blue mana here. Blue mana is going to allow our opponent to cast Born Upon a Wind, which will then give my opponent spells flash. And then we're going to see my opponent cast a handful of other spells. I'm just going to go ahead and fast forward to relevant plays. And with a storm count of 15, there is a Tendrils of Agony. We literally lose this one for losing the die roll. I have turn 1 Vexing Bauble around Chancellor of the Annex here. And then my opponent can't Lotus Petal, and they did not have a land. Mindbreak Trap is fine. Surgical Extraction not particularly strong here. The most interesting thing Surgical Extraction does is pop a Chancellor of the Annex trigger. Meltdown's kind of mid. Surgical's kind of mid. Magus of the Moon, pretty mid. I'm interested in getting these out of my deck. I'm interested in attacking my opponent's life total as quickly as possible because every single point of damage denies 1 card draw. Let's lower my curve a tiny bit and decrease my reliance on white mana and call that good. So this is turn 1 Goblin Rabblemaster, attack my opponent for 1, turn 2 attack them for a large amount, and I just decide whether or not that's good enough. I don't have Winota turn 2. A Vexing Bauble opener is probably stronger than this. I think I would keep this sort of hand after I've mulliganed once or twice. This I like better. So we'll keep this, get rid of a City of Traders. No Chancellor trigger this time. So this will just go on Goblin, and turn 1 Vexing Bauble. This shuts off some number of enablers from our opponent. Now they can just go land Dark Ritual, Necrodominance, and potentially win. Emphasis on potentially, though. Now we're seeing Vault of Whispers as lands. Good to know. Okay. All right, our opponent's just going to go for it. They are dead if they do not win now, because I will play an uncounterable Goblin Rabblemaster and deal 1 point of damage to them. Down to 1. Lotus Petals and other artifact mana, not currently valid. Whole bunch of Spirit Guides. Even more. That produces blue mana. The Born Upon a Wind is required for the win, but it's not as good as normal because it's not turning on the artifact mana, which normally just turns us into easy mode. We've got filtering. We've got mana. Ooh, Veil of Summer is very good here. So that means that artifact mana is now fair game again. And Summoner's Packs are as well. So now I'm going to fast forward to any relevant spells my opponent plays. I expect that I am now dead. And a few spells later, we do get the Lethal Tendrils. Yeah, so we don't have things like Chalice of the Void to help out with this, unfortunately. So we're less equipped to win matchups like this one. GG's. All right, we are stone cold dead to a Wasteland. Otherwise, this hand's pretty good. Vexing Bauble baits out early counter spells. We're redundant to a Thoughtseize effect. We're redundant to removal. Ooh. Well, hopefully this is not a sign of a combo deck list. Yeah. Oh, we are doing the thing here. So the question is, do I just broadside this turn? And I believe the answer is yes. Rabblemaster into Winota probably wins, but this Vexing Bauble is probably not doing anything. So let's just take that out of play and keep my opponent from accelerating into something crazy, like, I don't know, a food chain that just randomly kills me. Send in for my 2. This has Menace. My opponent can't block. 18. Goodbye, Hierarch. Pass turn. And I can still technically do Winota stuff next turn. I'll probably just Goblin Rabblemaster, assuming my opponent continues to play small creatures. Just the ability to throw goblins at creatures that cost 1 or 2 mana when I am generating those goblins for free probably just results in a win. Also, if I can avoid showing my opponent Winota. Oh, okay. No, my Vexing Bauble did have text. No regrets on the line, but the Mox Diamond is slightly surprising to me. All right, Urza's Saga deck. So we might be in like the Life from the Loam ballpark here. I don't think I'm giving up my lands right now. My opponent also, like, very, very reasonably could have a removal spell here. All right. Yeah, so these have to attack, and they will. Opponent's at 15. Am I throwing a goblin? I think I'll just throw a goblin. It's maybe not necessary to. The goblin is still worth 2 points of damage next turn, but sometimes my attacks aren't the most profitable next turn. It's like, do I take guaranteed damage now, play around some sort of weird board wipe effect, or do I, like, go towards Winota-ing harder next turn by keeping the goblin around? All right, opponent takes out my Soul Land. I'm still ahead on board. I'm still largely good with this scenario. Drawing a Soul Land would be crazy, to just play another Rabblemaster immediately and curve into Winota. A Green Sun for 1? Most of the things that my opponent could get here, I can kill by throwing something with broadside. The 4/4 Reclaimer, doing some work here. Am I good throwing Goblin Rabblemaster to kill that? Yeah, I think I am. So we'll make our creature, go to combat, send in everybody. Do I let my opponent go to blocks? I potentially just miss 1 point of damage, because I never want my opponent to do this. Sometimes they trade naturally. Let's just take no chances. Let's just kill that creature now. Pay the ward 1, get in for 3, go to 9. Because both of these require 2 colors, we'll say human here, and pass the turn. I am in a very good position as long as I draw another land, and things can get a little sketchy if I don't. Soul Land for Winota is ideal. 2 Winota triggers almost certainly just wins me the game next turn. Saga's great for my opponent, assuming they have another play. Grist is fine. That makes a blocker that helps defend Grist. But it is a helps defend situation, not a fully defend. Okay. Let's get some more fuel here. So yeah. Rabblemaster. Make a friend. Go to combat. I send broadside at Grist, and then I throw a goblin token at Grist, and Grist dies. So these 2 can go face. Wait a second, hold on. Do I have lethal? 3/2 face, plus 5, 8. No, I don't have lethal. So if I don't have lethal, let's kill Grist. Yeah. No blocks by my opponent. So yeah. Target Grist. Throw this, just keep my creatures alive. Pass turn. And then I can pretty easily go wide of an Urza Saga token and probably get my kill this turn. Another land to play broadside would make it very, very easy. All right, and we get the concession. So our opponent is playing some sort of green-black X mid-range deck. We should be thinking about like White of the Reliquary, Fiend Artisan, Elvish Reclaimer, like creatures in that general ballpark. The Ignoble Hierarch is probably a 1-of for a Green Sun target. I'm expecting like probably 4 Reclaimers if crop rotation is in there. I don't know which direction the crop rotation package is going to go, like whether or not we're looking at like Dark Depths or whether or not those are fetching up utility lands like Maze of Ith, Tabernacle, that sort of stuff. Regardless, Magus of the Moon seems really good. Fury seems reasonable. If I board in Fury, I lose Gigantha. I think we're always going to be boarding in Magus, and Fury is a maybe. I think I am not into Vexing Bauble, despite the fact that we do see that our opponent has Mox Diamonds, especially on the draw here. I think this is going to be weak. I can also play some number of Meltdowns to hedge against the Mox Diamonds and Urza's Sagas, which I think I like. Like, I can go down an Eomer, play 2 Meltdowns. I've got, like, now 5 cards that hedge against Urza's Saga. I don't hate a Fury or 2 as well. I think I'll make this substitution, even though Eomer is, like, pretty good versus a slow, grindy deck that probably wants to 1-for-1 me a bunch. This is just playable early against things like Elvish Reclaimer. And I don't know, my opponent probably has Tutorable Karakas, in which case Winota is way worse, especially on the draw. What if we go like Ya and keep these? I don't hate that. Yeah, I don't hate that. Oh, no. The 6 is also shaky. So it's Land, Chromox, Imprint, Eomer, Lotus Petal, play a Goblin, follow up with a second Goblin if I draw a mana source in 2 draws. That's probably good enough to keep after my opponent has mulligan to 5. But we've got problems here. All right, just land go from my opponent here. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I'm into that. I don't think I get to be greedy and try to keep Eomer, though. Oh, my opponent's sitting here waiting with this trigger on the stack. That was interesting. I was wondering if they were thinking about, like, using a Force of Vigor or something wild. Ooh, Fatal Push, maybe? Fatal Push? Fatal Push. So the problem with trying to keep Eomer is that, like, Eomer is currently my source of white mana in particular. Sure, that's fine. The Reclaimer's good. In a few turns, that will wall my goblins. Yeah. My Legion Warboss goblins are not going to accumulate in this first turn here. And given the draw of City of Traders, I could have gotten greedy and kept, well, potentially kept Eomer. I would still need a white source. Sure. Because I would have used this Lotus Petal last turn. But we are both operating under low resources. Oh, no, that's very bad. So that means that my opponent can now activate Elvish Reclaimer, and Elvish Reclaimer is a 3/4. So Legion Warboss can't safely attack anymore. That is awful. This is going on Goblin, and then I'm passing the turn. This is where I want the Gigantha that I don't have access to. This is still a game of Magic, but I expect that my opponent wins from here. Rough. Then we'll see what nonsense they end up doing end of turn. I legitimately don't know what they will be fetching. And Urza Saga is just reasonable if they have access to another land in hand already. No, just going for stable mana through Blood Moon. And again, 3/4 Elvish Reclaimer, holding down the board. Alright, we've got artifact mana now. Sure. So my opponent needs this extra mana for something. Maybe crop rotation? Yikes. We're effectively passing the turn here. My opponent's going to block my Goblin. Then we'll see what they're doing end of turn. Now it's Urza Saga. This is where having that Meltdown style card would be pretty cool. Broadside. Okay. I'm going to play this out for a little flexibility here. So we play our Broadside. Now, I can't actually remove Elvish Reclaimer effectively. So this is a little weird. At least not while my opponent has untapped mana. I think I'm just attacking like this. There's like a weird Talon Gates of Madara Urza Saga activation sub-game happening right now. So I could just throw this for some damage. I'd almost rather not, though. And then I think I'm going to move to the end step here and see if I'm going to give my opponent priority and see if they activate their Urza Saga. They do. So this is a 2/2. Since that is a 2/2, I can then throw a Lotus Petal at that construct token to keep the constructs from accumulating size. I also don't think it's crazy to just throw at Elvish Reclaimer there and keep Reclaimer from rotating away. Like, my opponent can rotate away Urza Saga if they would like. Boots are fine. I was more afraid of a Shadow Spear, honestly. Green Sun, Toxic Deluge. Yeah, that's pretty good. That punishes the way that I played that out. My opponent is relatively mana light right now. Okay. This is fine. What a fucking punish. Holy hell. Fury now gets to kill Elvish Reclaimer, whereas equipping Lava Spur Boots would have stopped that. That's brutal. Like, that Toxic Deluge was incredible. That was just a fantastic swing on my end in the other direction. Now they're mana light. Their Green Suns are going to be worse. Urza Saga is a little slow right now. Outland Liberator. Not what my opponent's looking for. I am just crashing in for 6. Kind of want Gigantha right now. Don't have access to Gigantha. I am unfortunately just passing the turn, which means that it is now night. So my opponent can get my Chrome Mox for free as an on-attack trigger. Potentially crack me back for 4. But Fury kills them in 2 hits. White of the Reliquary is pretty good. 4/4 baseline stats here. Oh, opponent not opting to hold back 2 creatures. We'll see how that turns out. 2 creatures matters a lot for some things like Broadside that I can top deck. Oh, wow. This is a better lucky than good moment, folks. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, this is why we sideboarded the Furies in. The White of the Reliquary is exactly a 4/4. Meaning that I just kill that now, attack my opponent for 6. There are 2 Furies coming. Brutal pair of top decks. Opponent's at 3. Both of these have to be answered. One of them can be chump blocked. Opponent has 1 card remaining. Seasoned Dungeoneer is not a very good draw. I do not have the white mana for that currently. But we are very far ahead on board. If I were to guess, my opponent has something like an Orcish Bowman. Oh, a Dryad Arbor will get them through the turn. But if this is just 2 chump blocks, that's real bad for my opponent. Drop rotation's cool. Urza Saga is okay. A Maze of Ith would be pretty cool. Something like a Glacial Chasm is too slow. Yeah, it is just Urza Saga. Alright, so my opponent is still dead on board, right? So if they activate Urza's Saga, that blocks a Fury, and then they would need like a 0-cost removal spell to get rid of the other one? Or like another Dryad Arbor, and I don't see that happening. Okay. I think I'm into this hand. It's a little awkward that I have to commit the the Chrome Mox prior to the Vexing Bauble. I would love to wait that out. But I think turn 1 just has to be Chrome Mox, Imprint Winota, Mountain, double Vexing Bauble, and then play Uncounterable Caves of Chaos Adventurer on turn 2. Alright, opponent has said some kind words. I'm actually one of the reasons that they started playing Legacy. So, let's try to bully them. Out of respect, of course. Vexing Bauble, and Vexing Bauble. And then hopefully this Caves of Chaos Adventurer can go all the way. We're not vulnerable to Wasteland right now. We've stopped some number of broken combo things from happening. But, you know, Psychic Frog, real good. Entomb Reanimate, real good. Like, Underground Scary is a good land. We're going to stand by that. Deck. That's not what we want here. So, Uncounterable Caves of Chaos Adventurer. We'll pick up the basic land from this trigger, the basic plains specifically, and call it a turn. We've got some redraws off Vexing Bauble later, so even though it kind of looks like I'm low on gas right now, it's probably not as bad as it looks. Love seeing this Brainstorm. This Brainstorm is so good for me. This means no Psychic Frog. This means no Entomb plus Reanimate this turn. That's clutch for us. I might even get like an attack trigger with Caves of Chaos Adventurer, which I don't think I've gotten an attack trigger with this yet. We could still get Fatal Pushed though. Green mana. So we could be a combo deck still. This could just be some sort of Storm style deck. It could be Bug Beans or something. I'm going left side here. We're forging. I want to hit like a goddamn truck here. Barbarian is not one of these. Barbarian is not one of these. Let's just go ahead and naturally attack then. Send in for 7. A Plateau, sure. Opponent goes to 12. I'll drop Plateau. It is worth 2 life for me to play this card, I believe. Because we still don't know what my opponent is playing. We will trap our opponent, put them to 7, and pass the turn. I can crack a Vexing Bauble if it feels like that is a good play. We're playing versus Storm combo specifically. This takes 1 off the Storm count required to kill me. But if we are playing against a control deck of some kind, it's a really big deal that I put the extra body into play for, you know, the Fatal Push type cards. I am leaning towards my opponent being combo, but I can't speak with confidence yet. Control? I believe in response to that fetch land, I crack 1 Vexing Bauble so that a Bowmaster doesn't end up messing with me. I think that's my plan. Yuck. Alright, so this is probably Bug Beans. An actual factual Tarmogoyf. It's been a hot minute since I've seen one of those. We get an extra card draw here. Not good. Holy mana, Batman. Okay. Well, I mean, my opponent's on a 2-turn clock from this. I'm still just going to attack. Snuff Out is a card that exists. Attack first. So, attack with this. Trigger. Oh my god. Put my opponent to 3. And then I decide whether or not I'm cycling Vexing Bauble immediately. I can just put a Gigantha in my hand, keep this in play. I can also just get rid of this and then pretty reasonably... no, let's... The worst case scenario is take the initiative, remove this creature, counter Gigantha. Let's put Gigantha in hand. So yeah, and I can very easily cast Gigantha next turn. Yeah, I think I'm leaving Vexing Bauble in play. Sure. There goes Seasoned Dungeoneer. My opponent is going to take the initiative here, which is not great for me. Getting a basic island. Yeah, and there's a source of card advantage. Yeah, we're going to keep Vexing Bauble in play. I think that card matters right now. Ooh. I'm just going to play a City of Traders. I don't want to take any Ancient Tomb damage here if I don't have to. We're just going to do that, pass the turn. Now my opponent can forge up this creature. They could potentially out-aggro me here. Like, there's some degree of risk. They can also just hide behind their Tarmogoyf. We've drawn a lot of land this game and not a lot of functional spells. Okay, opponent is holding back. That's a good sign for me. My Winota is pseudo-uncounterable. My opponent could 5 mana hardcast a Force of Will. Let's, I guess, see if that happens. So, yeah. So at this point, I probably crack my Vexing Bauble. Let's just get a little deeper here while something like a Bowmaster doesn't hurt me. Nice. So now we're just hoping there's not another Force of Will. So I'll Lotus Petal. I think I want the Gigantha untapped. I'll give up this Lotus Petal. Alright, so we see if there's another Force of Will. There's not. Then I get to Throne of the Dead 3. Winota. I can Winota attack with Gigantha, maybe put in a creature. Goblin Rabblemaster doesn't do a ton. Okay, so it's Winota. And then I just decide whether or not I want to attack with Gigantha. Sometimes I give up Gigantha for no value. But I think I don't. I think I attack with 3 creatures next turn. And then, like, Caves of Chaos Adventurer on attack trigger is good. Hoping we squeaked over the line of this game. But that's very much not guaranteed. Ooh, I don't like tapping Underground Sea there versus one of the 2 tropical islands. Now, black removal is not live. Situation was still very bad, to clarify, but I think tapping that trop matters. My card draw for turn wouldn't have been good. My Caves of Chaos Adventurer trigger wouldn't have been good. Ooh. Woo, okay. Gigantha, you did a thing. So, now what do I want to do? My opponent has Tarmogoyfs. Those are big boys. Those are outside of Fury range. My opponent probably doesn't board out Force of Wills because they're so good with Up the Beanstalk, which probably means I keep Vexing Bauble in. I don't hate these. They're a little worse on the draw, though. Eomer's weird if my opponent is playing Bowmaster. I think it is a very reasonable chance that they are. Eomer's really good if I need to grind. They're slow when I'm on the draw. I think I'm going to get rid of those and trim a broadside. This probably doesn't have enough mana to be keepable. Like, I can play turn 1 Legion Warboss and then not have a reasonable follow-up play if I hit a single mana producing land. I don't think the curve works with this one. That's a no from me. We'll be going to 5. 5 is reasonable. 1, 2, for sure. 3 for sure. Never Vexing Bauble. I have double Cavern of Souls. And then it's just a question of, like, do I want Lotus Petal or do I just want to keep threat density? I think I want to keep threat density. So I think we're doing this. And just kind of giving up the early game unless we get a little lucky and to draw an Ancient Tomb. It's not a perfect start, but we're on 5, so what you gonna do? Heyo! That's not bad. Now, this is still not perfect. Winota, unfortunately, is a human warrior, not a human soldier, so we don't have overlap between the creature types here. So we're probably not curving out perfectly into Winota. I can Legion Warboss right now. I can play Legion Warboss into Legion Warboss. If I do that, I'm not Winota-ing, though. I think I'm going to slow my roll by a turn, which is not usually what I want to be doing. Like, usually I am the aggressor, and I want to go turbo, but on my lower resources, I think it is just correct for me to slow down the game to keep this as a live card. Surveil land, in response Brainstorm, that's cute. So our opponent can junk a relevant card, or rather an irrelevant card, and just, ooh, Uro going to bin is very, very scary for me. There's not a ton in here right now. Okay. We'll go on human. So I have uncounterable Warboss into Winota. And if my opponent spends a bunch of mana on something on their turn, then hopefully Winota just goes ham. I don't kill Uro if Uro gets in play. I don't have, like, Solitudes or Swords to Plowshares, so, like, if Uro happens, Uro's fucking there, and Uro is forever. That's a more other Uro. So now the Murderous Cut, Fatal Push type cards are online. I would love if my opponent just like taps their black mana right now. Nice, nice. Coast is clear for Winota. Like, Winota should work. And 3 Winota triggers probably does my opponent in. Dismember could still be live. I'm good with playing this one here. White, red, +2. Winota. Combat! It's happening! Send Legion Warboss, target one of these. 3 Winota triggers. Getting a new Winota? Yes. Keep the one that is attacking. 2 more Winota triggers. That is a miss. Oh. Yeah. And that can't be responded to. No colored mana for our opponent, facing down a gajillion damage. Absolutely disgusting. But hey, they can force a will again. Magus of the Moon off Winota. So dirty. GG's. Okay, final round here. Hand's probably a keep. I have a little bit of flexibility in how turbo I go with playing this out. If we see a blue land of some kind, we probably lead on Vexing Bauble. Bloodstained Mire tends to be a combo land. Not this time. So we know that we are playing against a blue deck. I can just turn 1 Legion Warboss, but that does not follow up into turn 2 Winota. So we're going to try to shut off counterspells here. We're probably playing against some sort of like Bug Beans style deck list, or some sort of Urza Saga mid-rangey thing. Days, you say? What if no, though? What if no? So now my opponent has been set back a land. They don't get to Psychic Frog, which is fucking huge for me. And I get to curve an uncounterable Legion Warboss into City of Traders. And I'm still going to get to do that. Yeah. Well, in theory, I'll need another mana source over a couple of draws. Sure. Mana source. I don't have to worry about days. This isn't the perfect mana source, though. Because, you know, Vexing Bauble is symmetrical, so Vexing Bauble counters Chrome Mox. Okay, opponent just cracking their Spellbomb, drawing their card, and then I will get in for 1 point of damage. Alright. No Psychic Frog. It is my birthday. Hot damn. That's an early concession. But okay. Alright, so the Spellbomb was pushing me in the direction of this being a harder control deck, and then we saw Daze. I wish I had like some Pyroblasts to board in. I like that idea a lot. Against Daze, I don't know that I want the 5-drop. And I'm thinking about some amount of this stuff. We did not see enough cards. We didn't see a Psychic Frog. We did not see any reanimation elements. We did not see an Up the Beanstalk. So I don't know exactly how to evaluate these 6 cards here. Magus of the Moon is a little slow on the draw, but I don't hate it. If my opponent is playing the Reanimator style deck list, then Troll of Khazad-dûn just means that they can cycle 4 lands. And if my opponent is more through Magus of the Moon, and if they are more controlling and have Lorien revealed, then the same is true on that spectrum. So it's not like Magus is perfect. But if I board in Surgical Extraction and my opponent does not actually have the Reanimator elements, or say an Uro, it's not really the best. Given that I cannot answer a Psychic Frog reasonably, I think I am going to board in 4x Magus of the Moon as ways to stop my opponent from casting a Psychic Frog, but when they're on the play, I might not be able to stop that. My hand does not have enough mana. This is an auto mulligan, unfortunately. This is very similar to the last hand. I'm sitting here thinking about the Lotus Petal. The Lotus Petal lets me play Vexing Bauble around Daze if I want to keep it. I think I'm into that. Just Vexing Bauble into uncounterable Caves of Chaos Adventurer. Yeah, I don't love the plateau getting wastelanded, though. See what my opponent's doing. Cameo is something we could pretty reasonably see. It's Delver. Ooh. I could just jam a Magus of the Moon on turn 1. My Magus of the Moons are much worse than I thought they were. I think I still need to play the Vexing Bauble. It's not great to take a turn off to do this in terms of my outlook for the game. But I think if I don't do this, I'm just too likely to be punished by my opponent's cards here. I'm going to be on the back foot versus a Delver, which I don't love. If I jam a Magus of the Moon, I maybe shut off most or all of my opponent's mana sources, but it becomes harder for me to cast my own spells. We're jamming, though. Cavern. Cavern, go. Go, Cavern. You man. I fully don't expect this to win me the game. Like, my opponent can float mana for appropriate removal spells here. So, like, they can float black and then Fatal Push. Or Petty Theft. Petty Theft. Yep. Okay, I mean, that's good, I guess. Wasteland would be great for my opponent. There we go. Delver not flipping is good for me. My opponent not having Psychic Frog is good for me. Take one. And then we can jam Magus again. This is great. Yeah, and yeah. Wow, opponent's got another answer. Oh, okay, no, they're just playing another card. Sure. So now we just have to hope that my Legion Warboss outpaces their Delver of Secrets, which in theory should flip at some point. DRC, not bad, not bad. Gosh, my Kingdom for a Fury, though. So land drop. Opponent has 0 cards in hand. If I play Caves of Chaos Adventurer, my opponent attacks 2 creatures into my stuff. I think I just play Legion Warboss here. Not attacking with Magus. And then we just see, like, does this game slip away? Like, in the worst case scenarios, my opponent has 9 power worth of flyers. Ooh. No creature in graveyard yet. The creature is card type number 3. So we're going to make our friend. Always attacks with that. The attack with this is a little harder. I think I'm attacking with this. I think I would like to take bodies out of play. And if I take these 2 out for Warboss, I think I'm good with that. Okay, yeah, this is fine. My opponent goes to 13. I can Caves of Chaos Adventurer, but my opponent could take it back. I was hoping we would trade more bodies, so I think I'm just going to play another Magus here and keep that going. Delver flips to uncastable Brainstorm. And that is fine for me. This attacks for sure. I could attack with 1 Magus of the Moon. I'm happy trading for Delver, I think. I am happy trading for double DRC. I think I can attack with 1 Magus, but I don't attack with both. Yeah, this is fine. Because I know that this is about to resolve. So I just do this. This gives me access to white. And then I pass the turn. I have Forge. And I think we're just done. And that gives us a 4-1 with Winota. All right, so how do we feel about this lovely lady at the end of the video here? I would say that this build feels pretty good. I give it a general thumbs up. And I guess my question is, what do you do when you run into Psychic Frog? Like, you have a couple creatures with evasion that can try to punch through it, but Eomer is probably not removing it. Fury is probably not removing it. There's no generic white removal cards here that can remove it. There's no Pyroblasts in the sideboard that can remove it. We just dodged Frog this league, which is great for us. But Frog is probably going to wall the Warboss, probably wall Rabblemaster, probably wall Caves even, depending on what portion of the game we are in. And so I wouldn't mind changing around some numbers that allow some number of Pyroblasts for post-sideboard games. The Gigantha did some work sometimes, but when we are sideboarding in Furies, which felt like important cards, I was losing access to that Gigantha anyway. Like, you could mess with some numbers to get a couple of things that answer blue creatures in, be that Pyroblast or Swords. That also gives you outs to things like Uro or Murktide Regent that could be problems for this deck list. But generally speaking, we did the thing throughout this league. We grinded more than I expected to. I expected a lot of games to be just Warboss into Winota, GG's, well played, and we didn't get many of that. There was a lot more like grind out initiative for 10 turns, eventually win. And like, we have the ability to play the long game. Cavernous Souls and Vexing Bauble together really put a hamper on our blue opponent's plans. And we even won a mulligan to 4 today. So thumbs up. If you need cards for this deck, you know where to go. Promo code ThrabenU to let them know that I sent you. And folks, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day. See ya!